Welcome to today's explainer. We're embarking on a real journey today, a massive evolutionary leap, right from the dark, kind of primitive ages of network security straight into the highly evolved modern era of identity protection. We're literally mapping out the narrative of how securing our digital lives is changing forever. Let's get into it.
So, picture this. You're running security for a company. You're staring down a firewall and it's just full of blinking IP addresses, connections, raw data everywhere. But you're faced with this huge mystery. I mean, an IP is really just a digital license plate, right? So, who's actually driving the car? Who is behind those IPs? To figure that out, here is our agenda for today. 1. The flaw with IP security. 2. The user ID revolution. 3. Mapping IPs to real users. 4. The identity implementation roadmap. 5. The era of zero trust. And finally, 6. Seeing people, not IPs.
Section 1. The flaw with IP security.
For the longest time, network security was, well, pretty primitive. We basically just trusted a static IP address. But in our modern world, users are totally nomadic. They bounce from the home office to a coffee shop to the airport. Seriously, the average remote worker can change IPs like 5 times a day. Plus, devices are constantly changing. One single IP could represent a dozen different people in a given week. And here's the really dangerous part. When attackers exploit stolen credentials, the IP isn't the actual threat. It's the compromised identity. If you're only looking at numbers, you're flying completely blind.
Section 2. The user ID revolution.
Okay, this is where the evolutionary leap happens. We are completely changing the core question we ask our systems. We have to stop acting like bouncers asking what machine is knocking on the door and start acting like detectives asking who is the actual human trying to get in. It's a total game changer.
And by asking who, you unlock this incredible superpower, a security policy that literally follows the user anywhere. So instead of saying, allow SSH access for this specific rigid IP address, you allow it specifically for the IT admin group. And that access securely tags along with those specific humans, whether they're sitting at their desk at HQ or logging in from a hotel halfway across the globe. Section 3. Mapping IPs to real users. So how do we actually pull this off? Because firewalls don't magically know human names, right? Well, that brings us to the core mechanism, user mapping. Think of it as the foundational process of taking a seemingly random network IP address and securely linking it to a specific, verified human identity. Since the firewall doesn't know this out of the box, user mapping becomes the absolute beating heart of your security. Without it, the whole identity concept just falls apart.
Now, the cool thing is, there's no single silver bullet way to map users. You've got options. You can use Active Directory monitoring, VPN authentication through Global Protect, captive portals, syslog, network agents, or even external APIs. In the real world, robust environments mix and match several of these methods to weave this inescapable web of visibility across our entire network.
Section 4. The Identity Implementation Roadmap. To evolve your network, you need a solid game plan. Step 1. Deeply understand your environment. Who are your users? Are they hybrid? If you skip this, you're literally configuring in the dark. From there, you define your mapping, implement visibility so you can finally see real people in your logs, understand their groups, and then build your identity-based policies. Let's zoom in on step 4 for a second. Just knowing a user's name? Not enough. We need the business context. That's group mapping. It's figuring out what function they actually serve. Are they HR, finance, IT, maybe a third-party contractor? We usually pull this vital context straight from directories like Active Directory, so we know exactly who we're dealing with. Which perfectly sets up step 5, the holy grail of this roadmap, identity-based policy. This is where we finally ditch the old IPX can access server Y rules. Instead, we write rules in plain, logical business terms. Something like the finance group can access the accounting system. It completely overhauls how we manage access. Section 5. The era of zero trust. Everything we've been talking about builds up to this one powerful overarching concept, zero trust. The mantra is simple. Never automatically trust anyone. Seriously, not even if they're already inside the corporate network. By mapping identities, we enforce the principle of least privilege, meaning users get access to exactly what they need for their job and absolutely nothing more. And honestly, there is a huge sense of urgency to this narrative. If you don't evolve, you are stuck dealing with the massive risks of the past. You'll have zero visibility, which makes investigating incidents a total nightmare.
Your policies will stay generic and fragile, and your exposure to stolen credentials sky high. You're basically trying to run a clunky 2005 security model in a highly aggressive 2025 world. Not great. But when you implement User ID properly, you unlock some serious next-gen powers. You can seamlessly enforce multi-factor authentication on critical systems. You can actively block credential phishing, spot weird behavioral anomalies, and trigger automated responses the absolute second a user gets compromised. You aren't just defending cables and routers anymore. You are defending actual human identities.
Section 6. Seeing people, not IPs. And so, at the very end of this evolutionary journey, you hit a whole new level of maturity. You look at your logs, and you don't see a wall of meaningless IPs anymore. You see people. That gives you real compliant auditability, lightning-fast incident response, and a security posture that finally makes sense for the business.
As you reflect on this massive paradigm shift, I want you to ask yourself one final critical question about your own environment. Are you still trying to protect static network addresses? Or have you evolved to protect actual identities? Think deeply about that as you plan your next security upgrade. Thanks for joining me on today's Explainer, and remember, never stop learning.